Hello, science fans. Today, we are going on an adventure into the world of planning and thinking ahead. We are going to talk about something called risk management. Now, that might sound like a big, complicated phrase, but it's not. It is something you probably do every single day without even realizing it. When you look both ways before you cross the street, what are you doing? You are managing risk. The very first step in our risk management journey is all about identification. That is a sciencey word for finding things. We need to find all the potential risks. This is the brainstorming part of our process. We put on our thinking caps. What could possibly go wrong here? We need to be creative and thorough. Let's use a simple example. Imagine you are planning a picnic in the park. Risk rain, risk ants. Risk, a dog might run over and steal your sandwiches. See? Once you start thinking, the list can get quite long. Once we have our big list of potential risks, it is time for the second step, analysis. This is where we put on our scientist hats and examine each risk more closely. We want to know two main things about each puddle or risk. First, how likely is it to happen? Second, if it does happen, how bad will the consequences be? Let's go back to our picnic example. We identified the risk of rain. Now, let's analyze it. If the forecast says there is a 90% chance of thunderstorms, the likelihood of rain is very high. What happens if it rains? Our food gets soggy, everyone gets wet, and we have to pack up and go home. After analyzing our risks, we move on to the third step, evaluation. This step is all about making a judgment call. This is where we determine our risk appetite or risk tolerance. That is just a fancy way of asking, how much risk are we comfortable with? Let's stick with our picnic. We analyzed the risk of rain on a cloudy day. High likelihood, high impact. Is this risk acceptable? Probably not. We want to have a nice picnic, and getting soaked is not part of that plan. So we evaluate this risk as unacceptable. We must do something about it. Now for the action-packed fourth step, treating the risk. For all those risks we evaluated as unacceptable, it is time to come up with a plan. There are generally four main ways we can treat a risk. First, avoid the risk. Change our plans so the risk is no longer a factor. Second, reduce or mitigate the risk. Take steps to lower its likelihood or impact. Third, transfer or share the risk. Pay someone else to take the risk. For our picnic problem, we could bring large umbrellas, set up a tarp, or choose a picnic spot with a covered pavilion nearby. That doesn't stop the rain, but it reduces its impact. We can still picnic with a backup plan. We have reached our fifth and final step in the process, monitoring and reviewing. This may be the last step, but it is a continuous one. It never really ends. The world is constantly changing, and so are risks. It is like being the captain of a ship, constantly checking the charts, watching the weather. For our picnic, our monitoring plan is to keep an eye on the weather forecast. An hour before we leave, we check the radar. Oh, the forecast has changed. It is not just rain anymore. It is a severe thunderstorm with high winds. Let's put this all together with a fun business example. Setting up a lemonade stand. Consider two young entrepreneurs, Alex and Bailey. They want to run a successful lemonade stand. They decide to use the risk management process. First, they identify the risks. What could go wrong? Run out of lemons, run out of sugar. A bigger, more professional stand could appear. Competition. It could rain. No customers. Not make enough money to cover supplies. Spill the whole pitcher. Next, Alex and Bailey analyze these risks. They rate each risk by likelihood and impact. Running out of supplies is their biggest threat. Plan. Make an extra pitcher and keep it in a cooler. Keep extra lemons, sugar, and water in a box under the table. For rain. Simple treatment. Set up on a covered front porch. This reduces impact from a surprise shower. Finally, monitor and review. Monitor supply levels throughout the day. First pitcher gets low, bring out backup from cooler. End of week review. They made a profit. Their risk management process worked. So there you have it. The 5 steps of risk management. Identify, analyze, evaluate, treat, monitor. It might sound like a process for big corporations or scientists in a lab, but it's a tool for everyone. Think of risk management as a superpower. It gives you foresight. It helps you see around corners and prepare for what's coming. When you manage risks well, you're less likely to be surprised by problems, which means less stress, less wasted time, and fewer lost resources. The beauty is scalability. Use it for small choices like crossing the street, or huge goals, starting a career, buying a house, planning for retirement. The steps stay the same. Next time you start a project, small as baking a cake or big as starting a company, take a few minutes to walk through these steps. Ask yourself, what could go wrong? How likely is it, and how bad would it be? Is it acceptable? If not, what's my plan? Make risk management a habit. You're not just avoiding problems, you're building a pathway to success. You're giving yourself the best chance to achieve your goals. And that, science fans, is incredibly cool. Consider it an experiment in making your life better.